Right, exactly. I know, have a good day.
I have one of those fingers that I go real quick.
All right. Hereby call the Appomattox County Board of Supervisors work session to order. Glad to see everyone that's here in attendance. And at this time, we will have our Pledge of Allegiance immediately following with our invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together and to conduct a business on behalf of our citizens. We pray that you will lead us and guide us in all that we do tonight. Help give us the wisdom to make the appropriate decisions that ultimately is to the benefit of all of our citizens. Keep those who have lost loved ones in our community close to your heart, Lord, and just comfort them as only you can. Be with those who are ill. Heal them if it be thy will. All these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Okay. No, go on. We have with us tonight, and welcome, sir, Mr. Jesse Boss, and Dan's not here, is he?
Dan is not here. Dan's at the beach. He was supposed to be.
No, I know he hated to do that. Yeah. Oh, my. Come on up forward. State your name and address for the record.
Oh, sure. It's Jesse Bausch. I'm with Sands Anderson. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. Excuse me. So Jimmy, I'm sure, was here at your last meeting or maybe a meeting before that and kind of talked about kind of the overall game plan for what is, the financing for some of these school projects. And so what he did as the next step, a part of that was sending out an RFP to banks, local, regional, national, kind of everybody under the sun. They've got a list that's, hundreds of banks long, and they send it to everybody with looking at kind of a bank option through the EDA as one of the options to finance these projects. Because that's kind of, looking at the two options, it would probably either be some sort of bank bid. I mean, there's also a public option that you could do, but then also maybe the VPSA option. And the VPSA option is coming up in the fall. So kind of making sure we're getting all our ducks in a row. We want to do this piece to have at least a kind of barometer of where rates are going to be before, we make a recommendation about maybe going forward with VPSA. So the proposal here that Davenport provided kind of goes through all that and the bids that we got back. Frankly, we're very excited to see a local bank come in there with a really great bid. Lots of times, they want to be competitive, but they just don't kind of work in this space a whole lot. So it's hard for them to give rates that are really competitive with some of the more regional guys like the BB&Ts and SunTrust or, Truist, whatever they are now, and those sorts of, and there's some other kind of more national firms that do this sort of municipal finance stuff. But we're really, really excited to see a really good option from them. And so they've kind of laid out all those different options and what they look like, and also provided a comparison against what the VPSA might look like. The comparison on the VPSA side is VPSA probably overall is a teeny bit better, at least based on the kind of nominal rates that they're looking at right now. But that's a rate that's not going to be locked in until probably October. So with interest rate risk, kind of moving, right now everything's really kind of historically low. And it's kind of been staying that way for a while, but we don't know if things are going to move up or where things can change. And a lot of those things can just kind of be on the week that they price. And so their recommendation, and again, we serve as sort of bond counsel to you guys. We're not really your financial advisors, but we're kind of, since Jimmy can't be here, we're happy to kind of walk through this. And I think their recommendation is clearly in line with kind of how we see things in our discussion with the county administrator. The VPSA option still looks good, but we've got a really good option here from Farmers Bank at Appomattox. And so I think their recommendation, and we would agree with that, is going with the Farmers Bank option is good. Looking at some of those other options, the other one, that kind of came up as we were talking about it, is we have this one from the Bank of the James, which is a lower rate, but it's only for a 5-year, it's only locked in for that 5-year period. Davenport really strongly recommends, and we recommend as well, if you're trying to do long-term financing, then you don't, I mean, especially in a rate environment as low as it is right now, you don't do something that's gonna, that's gonna float and then be subject to a rate adjustment later on. Especially because, you have no idea what that rate's gonna be 5 years from now and then 5 years after that and things like that. If you can lock in something now that's, really good, then that, again, kind of the bird in the hand concept rather than kind of speculate on what you might get in the future. I am not the finance guy, so I'm happy to answer any questions about numbers and stuff like that. But I mean, I think between us and Jimmy and Susan, I think we had a productive call earlier in the week, kind of talking through. I think, this Farmers Bank option kind of hopefully really meets everybody's needs here in terms of what this project could look like, and with the great upside of it being local, that's really an important important notion that we know is important for folks. So we think that's just I mean it's a great option, and we would certainly recommend it. The steps forward from here, if you guys do decide to approve that bid tonight, I drafted a very short resolution that's just kind of saying we approve this proposal. There's 2 different options that they went out with, one of which kind of is amortizing it a little sooner. I mean, they're both 20-year deals, but one of them you're kind of doing an interest-only period for maybe the first 5 or 6 years. The other one has an interest-only for only the first 2 years or so. So that's an option to be left to you guys, which you can determine which of those you want to do tonight. But we're also going to have to come back just because we have to do just kind of all the forms, the documents for an EDA lease revenue deal. Because in this situation, we have the county as a party to all that. The EDA is the actual issuer of the bond. And then the school board, we're kind of running down the expected collateral here is going to be the high school. And so the high school is almost certainly owned by the school board. And so we'll have to kind of have meetings with all 3 parties and make sure we get everybody together and approve all those forms of documents. And so I think what we talked about was maybe doing a special meeting later this month with the school board and the county to kind of approve everybody's side there. We're kind of talking with Johnny here about EDA stuff, and we can maybe work that out at the meeting next week, or maybe, once you guys, if you do approve all that stuff, once those approvals have been made, we can come back and meet with the EDA again and then everything closed, and then get closed sometime in early September.
All right, the floor is open for discussion. Any discussion with Mr. Bosch?
We had looked at, sure we get interest on it, I don't know the exact number, do you?
Of paying interest only?
Yeah, until the other bonds were paid off.
Right. No, but I think what we had talked about is even if you wanted to do the interest on the front end, because that stretches out a little bit by adding it on, that we have that reserve fund for these type of projects, and we could use that to supplement the payment until 2026.
That's what we need 5 years, that's what I mean.
Right, you're exactly, yes,
That way, when taxes get ready to meet.
that's
Mhm.
correct. A summary of the bids, I'm not sure if you've had time to look at your packet, but next to the last page of this packet is the summary of all the bids. And I think I'll reiterate what Jesse was talking about is Farmers Bank came in at 1.99% until 2022, and it drops to 1.89%, and that is at a fixed rate.
That is great.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and if you look at pages 5 and 6, maybe? Let me see. Maybe it was 4 and 5. where they have the Farmers Bank proposal, option 1 and option 2. That's where we're getting at your point, Mr. Abbott, where they're kind of the two, that's kind of where it breaks out is, option 1 is sort of you're front-loaded that a little bit more and hopefully using a reserve fund to cover that, or option 2, you're kind of stretching that early period out a little bit and then picking it up on the back end.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hope?
he's already answered my other question about the other bank being slightly lower, but it's not a fixed rate, so that answers my question. I was pleased to see that the two lowest were two local banks. And just to clarify, the difference between option 1 and option 2, option 2 allows us to just pay interest only for those first few years to pick up the principal when our remaining debt load on some other things drops off. And really only looking at about $500,000 difference in total price between the two versions.
Right. I mean, they're still both 20-year deals. It's just kind of you're sliding some of it further out on.
And we could prepay with no penalty. So if we get to a position where we can prepay some of that off, it may not cost us the full.
Yeah. I mean, and that's another part of this bid that's great, because you don't have, some of them, they don't have that or have it's only after a few years. The VPSA option, they tell you it's after 10 years, but that's not exactly right, because they can refund your deal, and then all of a sudden your 10 years starts from whenever they refunded that deal. So the flexibility on the VPSA. They try to work with you, but we found, I mean, this is really the most flexible option that y'all can get.
Any other questions, concerns? If not, hey, we appreciate you making the journey up
No problem.
to God's country here. Thank you.
Excuse me,
Ms. Adams.
Mr. Carter. I think probably the board needs to consider whether to move forward with maybe a bank loan versus BPSA, because we're looking end of September before we'll know those rates, or possibly October.
That's correct, yep.
For the BPSA. And based on current conditions, 0.16 would make the VPSA comparable to this if this changes. So it's not a whole lot of difference as far as payments and the advantages of going with the bank or early payoff and some of those things that Jesse mentioned. So if the board wanted to proceed with accepting that proposal, he has a resolution that you can approve tonight, and then he would have to go before the EDA for the bonds and the school board about using the high school as a collateral.
Yeah, and we'll have to come back to y'all as well. I mean, it'll be just because for all the documents to be approved as well. But this is a really short one, just approving the bid and then kind of so that we can let the bank know that that's what y'all chose.
Great. Well, based upon staff recommendations for that direction, so the resolution has been written?
Yep.
Is there a motion
I think,
to approve?
do you have copies
Yeah,
of that?
I do.
You may want to just take a quick glance. Yeah.
We don't have,
No, it's not in the book. He brought it.
it's, oh.
And the resolution specifies kind of the basic structure we've talked about. We don't have anything in here about which option y'all want to choose. If you want to do that, we can amend it to, kind of specify one or the other, or we can, wait until we come back for the second approval.
Mr. Chairman, so as I understand it, this is basically just a resolution to move forward.
Correct.
And the reason we didn't put it in the board book, because we didn't want to put anything out that would sway your opinion until you heard the presentation.
Right.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hope?
if I could just ask Mr. Tosh, what's the con? I mean, this all looks pretty self-explanatory, but is there a con to going with the bank proposal?
No, the only con is, you could wind up in a situation with VPSA where they get a bit lower rate. I mean, there's only so much lower, they can go. But that's the potential downside, is that there's interest rate risk, going out another month or so, or month and a half. And there's a risk of it going up, but then there's also the kind of, the good side of that risk, which is it could go down. But we just, we can't predict. If any of us could predict the market, then we'd all be much richer men.
I think Jimmy included a comparison of the VPSA
I think so,
on
yep.
page 7, down in the bottom, the little green highlighted area. That could be your cons.
So then I'll move we adopt the proposed resolution. Approving Plumbing Bank option.
You don't have to tonight, do they?
That's right.
You
I mean, you could do it either way. I mean, if you want to leave that till the next meeting, that's fine, or you can just, this is mainly to just kind of let the bank know that, that you all are, we're going
This
forward.
locks in the interest rate today.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second.
Motion been duly made. And second, further discussion. Have a roll call vote, Mr. Hinkle,
Aye.
Mr. Hibbs, Mr. Abbott, Mr. Hogan. I also vote aye. And thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'll see you in a few weeks.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Okay, we can move on, then, can't we? Well, none of this is here, but that's, next is setting of the agenda. Anyone have any items they'd like to put on the agenda for discussion? Ms. Adams, you don't have any?
We'll come back.
No, sir.
All right.
We won't have documents.
Is there a motion then to approve the agenda as is? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. We might want to wait a few minutes on the citizen comment here. However, I think we can bench it over to,
That's item 5.
yes. Item five, which includes rezoning petition RZ 210301 Danny Booker. Mr. Booker has petitioned to rezone property off of Redbird Lane from R1 low-density residential to A1 agriculture. This is the same petition. The board referred back to the Planning Commission in June. A public hearing was held at the August Planning Commission meeting where no one spoke either in favor or opposition to the petition. The Planning Commission subsequently voted to recommend approval of the petition. The vote was 4-1. So we need to schedule a public hearing for Monday, September 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m. to receive comments from the rezoning petition. Is there a motion to do this?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Let's see. I guess we can go right ahead with proposed litter ordinance, cannot? At the May 2021 meeting, the board requested that the county attorney prepare an ordinance to address litter concerns throughout the county. A draft copy was emailed to the board members for review. Requested changes and/or comments. Mr. Latchney is prepared to discuss the proposed ordinance. Floor is open for any questions for Mr. Latchney?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Hope.
I noticed that the minimum fine is $1,000. And I just wonder if that's a little bit excessive for a first offense. I also wonder, the state just upped their fine to $500, and I don't know that we can have a fine exceeding the state limits.
Yeah, these are out of state code, but we can make less than 5,000.
Okay.
So yeah, you can change 1,000 to 500.
That would be my only concern, just that it seems, and I know we're trying to make a statement about, you know, the litter in the county, but $1,000 for something flying out the back of my truck, that might be a little much the first time.
Is it consensus of the board to change the $1,000 figure to 500? Mr. Abbott? Mr. Hinkle? Mr. Hill? Me too. Any other concerns or issues? Mr. Abbott?
Let me ask Tom a question. It looks like to me, if I read this under B, that any person could swear out a warrant or complaint that sees a piece of trash fire of a vehicle. And it would be assumed that the driver of that vehicle through the trash area,
We assume the owner of the vehicle.
owner of the vehicle.
So the license plate, then they say, you bag trash out the window, that's enough to charge the owner with a violation, and it says the owner would have to prove what.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Abbott?
Can't agree with it. Can't agree that we can give a private citizen the right to report somebody, and then that citizen, that owner of that vehicle, that truly did do it. I see a lot of instances here with neighbors that don't get along. I don't ever control with law enforcement officers doing, but I can't support that with that. You're giving an individual, say, call a truck going down the road, and something where it's at. I don't like those much video. I believe that a lot of it could be. I think 99% of the time it's simple. But if you want to get even with somebody, it'd be a mighty good way to do it. If you're a neighbor you didn't like.
Very true.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hinkle?
going on Mr. Abbott's comment, I'm kind of conflicted about that because a lot of times I drive by the trash unit, which is in Mr. Hogan's district, and I've seen people stop when it's closed and just set garbage outside the entrance and that. And with this ordinance, I would have the ability to like take a picture of that with my cell phone and do something about it, whereas without that, what would be would I then just take that to the sheriff's department and they would have to investigate it? Because to me, it would be because in my things, like 99% of the trash is not done in front of a law enforcement officer. Or not done when there's one, available.
I think how they were photographed is good. I can see somebody next to me, they were great, and my neighbor around, I talked to him about how I have same place where we were at. And around some food that he didn't.
I understand the way this is written, the citizen doesn't go swear out for that. The citizen, all this is an evidentiary. Because this is only a rule of evidence, it's saying, what's gonna happen is, I didn't vote out, everybody can say, well, maybe it was somebody else who put it out the window, so the rule of evidence here is the presumption that if somebody saw it, if somebody, if Mr. Hankel's client, who called sheriff's department, and showed the pictures, they would give the charge. The evidence would, the presumption would be the owner was the guilty party, that's what the owner has to prove, it wasn't him. Otherwise, this is why it's so hard to enforce these litter things, if you don't have that, is, hey, it was a passenger, I don't remember who it was. And so, there's this presumption, it's an evidential or rebuttable presumption of real evidence. So there's a rebuttable presumption that the owner did it, and then if the theory is the owner can fess up and say he did do it, you know, son drive the car or something else like that. But it doesn't let the citizen go charge the person, it simply is a rule of evidence. sees, Mr. Hinkle sees somebody littering, he notifies the sheriff's department, they charge that person. Mr. Hinkle's testimony, we now presume it was the owner that did it, and that proved it wasn't. So there could be a potential district, but it would be a two-step process. You got to A, from the sheriff's department, B, rebuttal presumption.
You have to, that person. And I what the hate to say is perfectly like you should have. But I'm just thinking of a neighbor who said something good back, on the top of the back, and somebody they don't like, then they don't get along. And then you could cut off this, go to the sheriff, and it's up to them whether they swear it or not. That person comes to court, yeah, so I come in, it's up to the owner to prove he didn't do it.
Well, the neighbor's gonna stick it to the neighbor, just lie, I saw him, go drums, throw it out. If you want him to lie,
That's right.
you know, you can do that now. You can say, if you have a little ordinance, you can say, some little guns, throw comes hard, and they'll let it go. So, I mean, that's the problem with littering, why it's so hard to do it. And why we have some problem with the state. Because it is a hard thing to catch people doing.
Be kind of hard to tweak it, I would assume.
Well, you can take that out, but then and any sheriff's gonna be much less likely to want to go to court when the guy says, well, it came flying out of the car, and threw it. And, no deputy's gonna charge anybody, because you're gonna go to court and the judge's gonna say, well, you don't have the evidence you did it. That's why the general assembly put that in there. Surmount what becomes sort of a hindrance to pretty much any litter out of the car.
I fully grasp what Mr. Everett is saying. It kind of puts an individual between the rock and a hard spot, possibly. But I do know too, on the other hand, flip side of the coin, the county is in bad shape due to litter in that regard.
Mr. Chairman?
A lot of jurisdictions have adopted this, and they'll tell you it doesn't make any difference anyway.
Oh.
The only thing I would add to that discussion is that this is the exact language in the current state law. So if we had that neighbor that would want to get at the other neighbor, it's already in the law. It's a state law. We're just trying to make a county code. So that situation's gonna happen regardless.
So it's already in the
It's already in the state law. I'm reading it now.
It
It's,
just makes it local, and it makes any fines come to us.
I move we adopt it.
Motion duly made, is there a second?
Second.
Do we have to have a public hearing?
So, if you have a
Oh,
motion-
that's right. Yes. But I'm glad, hey, that's good, we
I
had
move
this
we
discussion.
schedule a public hearing.
Motion made, is that second?
second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Mr. Chairman, I know he's a little bit late, but could we look at some language, Mr. Lashley, about second or subsequent offenses? So if we have some repeat
Yeah,
offenders.
I'm gonna drop that 1,000, I'm gonna say $500 first offense, and 1,000 for all subsequent.
Very good. Let's move on to the next item, property requested for surplus. The purchasing agent has attached for our review a list of items to be declared as surplus by the Board of Supervisors. These items will be publicly sold by the purchasing agent, and proceeds from the sale of these items will be deposited in the county's general fund for future use. Also, attached is a list of assets that have been sold, on government deals. Hope everyone's had an opportunity to review the surplus that the purchasing agent has listed. Any questions on any of those items? Let me ask you this, is that under the, under the title of sold amount, is that what, for an example, 3 office chairs, is that $1 a piece? Was that $1 for all 3? Or just exactly what?
$1 for a lot of 3.
Okay. Any discussion on these items as listed?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we authorize the proposed list be declared surplus property.
Motion duly made, is that second? Second. Further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Hinkle.
Aye.
Mr. Hips. Mr. Abbott. Mr. Holt.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Okay, 6:30 bells. So, we are so honored tonight with a resolution honoring the Appomattox Senior FFA Chapter and Veterinary Science Team. Attached for our review and adoption is a resolution honoring the Appomattox Senior FFA Chapter and Veterinary Science Team for earning recognition as the top FFA chapter in the Commonwealth of Virginia. What a accomplishment that is. So I'll ask my fellow board members to come down with me while I read this resolution. And the thank you, the FFA to proceed to the front. This is the have Mr. McCann. There we go. The board welcomes each and every one of you here tonight, and what an honor it is. Here's a resolution that will be adopted by the board, which reads as follows. Whereas the National FFA organization has its roots in the 1925 formation of the Future Farmers of Virginia by 4 Virginia Tech educators responsible for teaching future agriculture education teachers. And whereas the Virginia FFA Association of the National FFA Organization currently has 186 chapters, 9,901 members across the Commonwealth of Virginia. And whereas Appomattox Senior FFA is an active chapter of the National FFA Organization and is the premier leadership organization, the students in agriculture education at Appomattox County High School. And whereas the Appomattox Senior FFA chapter traveled to the Rockingham County Fairgrounds in Harrisonburg, Virginia on June the 23rd, 2021 to participate in multiple statewide career development events as part of the 95th Virginia FFA Convention. And whereas the Appomattox Senior FFA chapter received a gold rating in the Public Relations Award and received the Southeast Area Chapter Forestry and Wildlife Award. And whereas the Appomattox Senior FFA also received a gold rating in the Superior Chapter Contest, earning the opportunity to attend the National FFA Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana this October. And whereas the Appomattox Senior FFA chapter also earned top honors in the Southeast area in the Growing Leaders, Building Communities, and Strengthening Agriculture portion of the National Chapter Award Contest, and placed first in the state for the Growing Leaders in Strengthening Agriculture. And whereas the Appomattox Senior FFA chapter earned first place in the prestigious statewide National Chapter Award Contest. And whereas the Appomattox Senior FFA Chapter Veterinary Science Team placed first in the state, beating out 16 other teams to win the state championship and the right to present Appomattox County High School and the Commonwealth of Virginia as the National FFA Veterinary Science CDE to be held at the National FFA Convention in Indianapolis this coming October. And now, therefore, be it resolved that with great pride, the Appomattox County Board of Supervisors does hereby honor the Appomattox Senior FFA for earning recognition as the top FFA chapter in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Also, with equally great pride, the Board of Supervisors does hereby honor the chapter's state championship veterinary science team and its other CDE teams in their excellent performance at the recent Virginia FFA Convention and throughout the previous year. And it be further resolved that the board commends all involved for the dedication and sacrifices necessary to achieve such accomplishments, especially this year of the COVID-19 pandemic. Furthermore, the board wishes safe travels, best of luck to those attending the National MFA Convention this October. Adopted by the board on this day, 16th day of August, 2021. Gentlemen, is there a motion?
Chairman, I so move we adopt the resolution.
Is there a second? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. What other accomplishment, gentlemen? Just keep it up, keep it up. If you would, come up here, I'll pass his recognition note, and you could.
Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate for Mr. McCann to introduce us?
Well, yeah, that'd even be better.
Sure. Tonight we have with us our state champion veterinary science team, and so they've been working really hard to get ready for their contest at the National Convention. Here beside me, to my left, is Will Morgan, Tyler Martin, Rose Clark, and Christian Guy.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
You said his name is William?
Yes.
I'm not gonna stand aside.
Thank you all so much.
Next, you have Mr. Galen Creekmore and Mr. Gary Wood, CDEC, resolution in support of the regional broadband grant application. Welcome, sir. Good to see you again.
Thank you. I'm going to quit showing up here every month for too long. Tonight, we're going to ask for the actual commitment for funds and to be in the project, the universal service project we're doing on a regional basis across 12 counties. So I was here last month. I do have an update. I'm going to ask you for a little more money, but that's because we found there were a few more folks who didn't have internet service. Let's see if this, does this work? Is it supposed to work? Oh, there you go. Pushing it the wrong way. This is a map of the entire project area of the 12 counties that we'll be in, but tonight we want to focus on Appomattox County. And this is our final map that we'll show you with the three colors. First of all, the dark blue is the CVC electric service area, and that is complete. We've completed construction there, and all of those folks have service. The yellow area is part of the county where we received Connect America Fund award from the Federal Communications Commission auction a couple of years ago. So we already have funding in those areas to help us build out fiber construction. The light blue area is what we've been able to identify as the unserved areas. And you'll see that along 460, there's some little uncolored areas. That's where Chantel has service and around the town of Appomattox. This map, when we actually look at it, when you look at it on mapping software and you call it up close, you can see the individual homes. And we've tried to identify home by home, the homes that actually have service available at 25 megabit per second download speed and 3 megabit per second upload. Those are considered served, and we want to make sure we touch every other one. So we've put some time in, and that's the map we've come up with. That has a slightly different numbers, and I'll get to those in a minute. Again, this is a partnership project with us and Dominion. Dominion will be running on their lines some backbone fiber that they will lease to us for our use in their territory. And then we will run the final services to the homes, and down the side streets we'll be extending fiber. But along their main lines, they'll be running it and leasing it to us. And the south side area will be building all of the fiber. And then Appomattox County and the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission, because as I mentioned last month, we're going to use the Thomas Jefferson Planning District as the main applicant for this, since it's a regional project. So more detailed than you want to know, but when we get into actual construction, our plan is when we complete this, whether it's on a monthly or quarterly basis, we will submit to the Thomas Jefferson Planning District that we have finished X number of dollars worth of construction in Appomattox County. They will take that information and apply for the portion of the VADI grant for Appomattox, because they'll be managing that big grant from the state. And then they'll contact Appomattox County and say, your portion of the match is this much. And that way they're managing all the funds flowing through so that you have an arm's length transaction, making sure that we're not just coming in and tapping your funds before we get things constructed. So here are our totals. Last month, for comparison, I think I've got it. We said there were about 1,310 homes, and we're up to 1,668. So there were some additional homes that we added in that we found were unserved. We also switched a few. There were a few that we thought were unserved that were served, and then we found a few others. But we feel very good that this captures the rest of the unserved homes in the county. You can see all total, we'll be spending about, us and Dominion, about $16 million in the county to finish building out the fiber. The VADI request last month, we had said we were going to be around $2 million. It's actually going to be about just under 4.4 million for a couple of reasons. Theirs went up a little more. The county's last month, I said, was 983,000, we thought. And with this new total, we're at $1,166,200, which I think works out to $750 per home passed of those 1,668. So we would request you consider a resolution that will commit those funds. As a reminder, we will not actually draw funds until we do construction. So you don't have to put up any money tonight. You don't have to put up any money until after we begin construction, and that, for the most part, is going to be next year, because one of the main pieces is waiting on Dominion to get their approval from the State Corporation Commission. They have to file with the State Corporation Commission the routes that they will be running fiber on and get approval from that commission. That takes them 3 to 6 months. They'll be doing some background work so that by the time they get that approval, we'll be ready to go. But you're probably looking at mid-year next year to actually start construction on the majority of the project, which is in this timeline. September 14th, we'll put our application in. In December, the awards are announced. Dominion will file early next year for their approval, probably mid-year when construction begins. We say we'll finish everything by 2025, but our intent is to build as fast as we can, and we'd like to think that in Appomattox we can probably beat that date, although I reserve the right to see where that lands with. The Dominion piece will get built earlier. We intend to get the south side piece built as well as quickly as we can, but those will be two different types of construction. In the south side area, we may be doing more underground construction, and part of it will be depending on the additional underground crews we're going to be bringing on to do this big project. So I'm hopeful that we can actually get more of those crews earlier and finish earlier, but that'll be part of what drives that final schedule. And then here's the a recommended resolution that basically says that you're partnering with Firefly in this regional project. It gives our numbers of homes and miles of line that we see in the project, the total project cost, and commits the county to its level of funding somewhere in there, down at the very bottom, not to exceed $1,166,200. So that was a quick run through. We've talked about this several times, but I'll be glad to take any questions and then ask you for your commitment, if not tonight, sometime before the 14th of September, so that we can have you in our application.
Floor is open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hinkle.
I have a question, is what is considered served areas. You know, area, homes that are already served, what do you count? Is that just land or digital cable connections, or does that include people who have satellite and other options?
Good question. So satellite and cell phone service are not considered to be served under the grant rules. You have to have either a wireless service, like a radio wireless, or a wired connection, either through DSL if you're through a telephone company, or through a cable option. And the speed has to be faster than 25 megabit per second download and 3 megabit per second upload.
And, Mr. Chairman, one follow-on question. No, it went away. Oh, yes. Is there a place we can go online and look at that digital map so we can get a closer idea of what those colored areas are than what this map here shows?
I'll be glad to send it over to Appomattox. And I don't know if y'all have a mapping system that, but we have one. I need to see if you can call it in that close. The one I have on my desktop, I can, but I'm not sure the one we have out for public has that level of detail. But I will find a way to make sure we can get you access to that.
Mr. Ed.
County administrator, where will this money come from? Will it come out of the general fund? Or we got a grant?
You can,
Buy culvert money? Or
you can use part of your American Recovery Act funding for this project. That's one of the criteria that the state set forth, that the funds can be used for, but that would absorb most of round one funding.
how much do we have in that fund now?
I think it's 1.7, 1.5. And the second round will come next year, in June.
Board members that facilitate their corporate money?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Haynes.
I guess to further clarify that, we get 1.5 for this year and then additional next year. If I look at, or heard him say, it looks like we wouldn't require any expense really till almost next year's budget if he's talking mid-year next year. So on that basis, we wouldn't be touching any of the 1.5 we got now, unless we held it over, if we could held it over.
What's, Mr. Chairman,
So,
the new ARA money, we have to spend that by when?
We have,
We got a couple of years to
yeah,
spend it,
we've got a
right?
couple of years to spend that.
So we could basically take that
Hold that
1.5, hold it for this purpose when the time comes, and then at least we'll know we'll have that in the bank, so to speak. I think that'd be just as good a purpose for that money as anything else we could spend it on. Just me personally, I mean, it's at less than $1,000 a household to get fiber to it. I think it's a pretty good investment for our community. We spend a whole lot more than that on another option that's not working so well.
let me ask an infamous question, and that is it anything available grant-wise, from now till 1st of September? Middle of September in this case.
Anything in terms of,
Loosening the 1 million, was it 1,166,000?
oh, is there another source maybe of coming in for that? I do not know of any in the short term. Because you don't have to necessarily commit where it comes from for me. We just need a commitment that the county's going to provide it. Certainly, the American Rescue Plan funding is available and has specifically been allowed to be spent on broadband along with 3 or 4 other broad categories. We know that Congress is working on an infrastructure bill that has come through. We have no idea what that'll look like and when it'll come out and whether it'll come to counties or where it may go. But that may be another option, particularly when you're looking at this construction taking several years. There may be other things that come up, but I don't I don't want to paint too rosy a picture and say, just say it and wait, and don't worry, things will come out okay. I think in the worst case, you've got the American Rescue Plan funds, but if you have other options that come up before that's due, we don't care which pot it comes
I
from.
understand, yes. Any other question? Concern? Well, thank you, sir. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, you read the resolution? Had the second round of discussion, if you will. What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I don't see how we can turn it down. I think this is it's one of the specified uses for the American Rescue Plan money. This is a known, you're getting a known product, because they've done it already in the county for approximately half the county. So you know they'll get it done. And I would move we adopt the resolution.
Motion duly made, is that second?
Second.
Further discussion? Have a roll call vote. Mr. Hinkle.
Aye.
Mr. Hibbs. Mr. Abbott. Mr. Holt.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Hinkle.
point of order. I think we bypassed the citizen
We did.
comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Holt.
There's
Is
no
it-
one signed up.
Huh?
There's no one signed up to speak.
No one signed up?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask this. I'll ask the audience. Is there anyone here that failed to sign up but would like to address the vote? Okay. Moving right, I thank you too, Mr. Hinkle. Public hearings at 7. How about item number 8 is our next agenda item? Wireless fund. Please transfer by consent $2,645 from the wireless fund and appropriate to 3606-7003 communications equipment for repairs to the radio tower. Floor is open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve the transfer of funds from wireless fund to the communication fund, $2,645.
Yes, sir. Is that second? Second. Further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Hinkle?
Aye.
Mr. Hibbs? Mr. Abbott? Mr. Hogan? I also vote aye. Next is a special permit event application request for the board's review and a special permit event application from Ken and Bonnie Swanson for a blues night at Evergreen Lavender Farm, Lavender, I should say. Lavender, I can't get it right here. To be held on September the 18th, 2021 at the Evergreen Lavender Farm located at 7169 Old Evergreen Road in Atlanta, Virginia. This is a music concert which will start at 7 p.m. and end at 9 p.m. There will be food and wine available for purchase. Admission fee is $10 per person. This is a rain or shine event. No plan for cancellation. The sheriff, public safety director, building inspector, zoning administrator, and the county administrator have reviewed and approved the application. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hinkle.
the write-up that you just read says it's ending at 9 o'clock. I noticed that the permit says 9:30.
Aha. Which is correct. May I ask staff?
It would be the application.
It'll be the application. Okay, so 9:30. So 7 p.m. to 9:30. Good observation, Mr. Hinkle. Okay. Motion duly made. Is that second? Further discussion?
Guys, I stand, if you looked on page 4 of the application, it says the music ends at 9.
Oh.
But the event,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
And Everybody's right.
Well, everybody's right.
Very good, very good. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Appomattox Railroad Festival request. Attached for the board's review and approval is a request from the Appomattox Railroad Festival to use the courthouse square, county parking lot, social service, and school board parking lots, and the sidewalk in front of the courthouse for vendor space at this year's 48th Annual Historic Appomattox Railroad Festival, Friday, October the 8th through Sunday, October the 10th. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the request.
Motion
for
due,
Railroad Festival.
motion duly made, is that second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Next is Memorandum of Understanding with Appomattox County School Board. Attached for our review is a Memorandum of Understanding between the Appomattox County Board of Supervisors and the Appomattox County School Board. Allocate money received from the CARES Act to provide 100 broadband connections and students in Appomattox County. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I move we adopt the memorandum of understanding.
Motion duly made, is that second?
I'll second it so I can ask a question.
Okay. Motion been second?
Is this the same, I guess, what we agreed to before, on the, that if they pay for 100, we'll pay for 100? Okay.
Yeah,
Is
it's
this the same
just,
company that's only got 64 households in the county wired up?
it is.
Okay.
It's the school's commitment. They wanted to have an MOU.
But if we ever get to that point where we need it, okay.
Any other concerns or issues?
Well, I was just going to join Mr. Hogan in expressing my disappointment in BX2. And I got several people that they came out and said, oh, yeah, we can hook you up or whatever, and then due to the conditions there, no service.
Yes, that is bad. Further discussion? All in favor of the MOU, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Disapprove? Okay. Albemarle County Public Schools reappropriation request. Attached for the board's review is a reappropriation request from the Albemarle County Public Schools. The amount requested in this reappropriation of funds currently in the School Capital Improvement Fund and school textbook accounts. No new local funds are being requested. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, we approve the reappropriation request to the textbook fund and the capital improvement fund.
Motion duly made, is that second?
Second.
Discussion?
Chairman, if I could answer,
Yes, sir, Mr. Adams.
County Administrator. We haven't gotten an audit down surplus funds this year from audit.
The amount is FY '20. That is $425,980. Those are the funds that she's asking for. It's end-of-year savings from FY '20. In addition to what she already had. You have not appropriated these funds into the CIP yet.
All right, let me ask you if I might just tell you.
Yes, sir.
What we're doing is just appropriate what's already in the CIP over to the next year, is that right?
You're reappropriating and you're including those FY '20 end-of-year savings funds.
We're including another $400,000.
Mhm.
Breakdown of what they spent each one on. We should have had that $400,000. I thought we were running that this.
Well, the total ended balance is $909,263 for the CIP, and their expenditures are $354, but no, I don't have a breakdown of what they were for. Okay. All right.
Want to table this to next meeting? You didn't make a motion. What's the board's pleasure?
I thought Mr. Hogan made a motion to.
He did. He did, oh, I'm sorry.
Second by Hinkle.
And I second it.
Okay. I'm blind in one ear, I can't see it. Motion duly made and second. Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
In the motion, I believe is in order to change it. That be the,
Substitute.
your priority motion.
That's the priority motion.
Y'all do not object to it, but I might if you object to it, I would. I would like to know what that 300,000 spent on.
Okay.
I don't have any objection as long as it's not going to hold up anything with the school construction or anything that's already going on where they need these funds.
Mr. Hinkle.
Are you nodding yes, it would get in the way, or?
No, it should not. I mean, based on what they already have in there. But if you were to wait on those spendings, see, none of these are carry forward funds.
They can't spend these if we appropriate.
That's correct, till it's reappropriated. Now, I think they're using CARES funding or ARA funding for their portion of the $3 million. So this should not impact that.
So this year, this year they spent almost what the surplus is. Surplus is 400, you said they spent 300. So it's really not much surplus. All of that, so 400,000 over the above. What they spent on the front, is that right? I'll make a motion and say, we'll see what the fund. I don't think it's anything we can hold up, because they don't have the funds available to us now.
Yeah, agree, okay. Motion made. Second. Other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, I see that it's 7:03, and we will engage in our public hearings. First public hearing is animal control ordinance. A duly advertised public hearing has been scheduled for the Appomattox County Board of Supervisors to receive comments on proposed amendments to Appomattox County Code 9.1-2 license tax amounts and 9.1-4 rabies vaccines. The amendments will create a civil penalty for not purchasing county dog license, $25 first offense and $50 for each subsequent offense for not vaccinating dogs, cats, 4 months or older. Is it anyone here to speak in favor of this public hearing, this ordinance? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
I'm Officer Last with Animal Control. I've been working here for about a year, and I believe it would be beneficial to have those fines payable, just so that we're not sitting in the courtroom unnecessarily, because most of the time the judge will dismiss the fine if they show proof of rabies and vaccines. I think it'd just be beneficial just to have it an easy, just payable online or in person. Just simply just go in, save us time and save us time and money. So I'm not sitting there waiting for the judge to dismiss a case that's not really needed to be seen.
All right, thank you. Name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Animal Control Officer Amy Bremer, and I live at 183 Hunter Farm Road here in Appomattox. And I've been with Animal Control for about 10 months now. And I kind of want to echo off of what Mr. Last said. We're kind of going to court for something that usually the person has already gotten the rabies or gotten their license, that kind of thing. So it seems like it's something that they could handle maybe outside of court, so.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Karen Angulo in Concord. I don't object to this. I would just ask for some clarification, though, because it says 25 first offense, 50 for each subsequent. What's the period of time? What's the second offense? Is that like the next day? Is that like, the week? What does that mean? So I would just ask for some clarification on what first offense versus subsequent offenses mean.
I think we can answer that now, before I bring Mr. Lashley.
Yeah, I think the first offense and subsequent offenses, the way courts interpret that is reasonable time between. We have Thursday and Friday again. And I don't think we do that in any family control. I think once we give them the warning, I think we give them a certain time to do it. And the goal here is give them a comply.
Yeah, do they give is there a certain amount of time
I don't really.
that they have to
We
comply?
usually give at least 10 days, and we'll work with them. If they can't get into the vet to get the appointment in, we try to work with people. And then after that, if you can tell that they're really not putting the effort in, then that's when we have to go forward with tickets.
I think there's little bit of language that can be put in there just to state that's according to the animal control guidance or something like that. So
Okay.
people don't think that it's going to be like every day they get fined.
Anyone else speak for? Anyone here to speak against? Well, hearing none, I declare this public hearing closed. So, Ms. Adams, we don't have anything.
No, if the board would like to go ahead and vote on it, they can. If they would like to defer it to another meeting, they can do that.
I think it's
If you
great.
recall, I made up those numbers, so Bonnie was saying at least 60 seconds, I'll let those read the they're not magic numbers, I don't.
Sound like good numbers.
Mr. Chairman, would that be, I got $2. If I don't have both of them back, is that typically 2 tickets or 1 ticket for both animals, or how would that work if you have multiple animals?
Each animal has a license, so each violation is a license.
So each animal's a separate violation? Okay. And this is not any different than what's state code now. It's just kind of, again, we're going to create a local ordinance so we can do it civilly.
Well, the state code gives you the option of going civil, so what we're doing is adding the option of going civil. So they can just issue a ticket and just send it down there.
Or get their rabies vaccination, and we could, I guess, do away with it, or whatever we would do to comply, to show that they're compliant with their.
And we don't say that, we could say that, we could say if you show proof of vaccination on the first offense within X days.
It's a good idea. What's the rest of the board feel?
But, well, I'm kind of conflicting myself, because I'm thinking if they've already given them time to get it done before they wrote the ticket in the first place, that was their opportunity.
Yeah, in which they will,
Grace period.
and they'll give notification first.
Yeah.
And they've also been keeping in compliance, not penalty.
Right.
Okay. Nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. The board, we'll entertain a motion then.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adopt the animal control ordinance as written.
Motion duly made, is that a second? Further discussion? All in favor, please signify. Oh, roll call, excuse me. Mr. Hinkle?
Aye.
Mr. Hips? Mr. Evans? Mr. Hope? I also vote aye. Okay. Our next public hearing is on the Lynchburg Humane Society lease agreement. In accordance with Code of Virginia 15.2-1800B, a duly advertised public hearing has been scheduled for the Appomattox County Board of Supervisors to receive comments on the proposed lease agreement with the Lynchburg Humane Society. After review and discussion of the April 23rd, 2021 letter for the Lynchburg Humane Society, the board requested staff to schedule a public hearing to receive input from the public prior to addressing the request from LHS. According to the letter, Mrs. Walker, who is the executive director, is informing the board that the letter serves as a 180-day notice that the Lynchburg Humane Society will not renew the terms of the existing lease. In place of the agreement, LHS is proposing that animal sheltering services be provided through a centralized approach from their Graves Mill Road location in Lynchburg. We value our relationship with the County of Appomattox and welcome the opportunity to work through the details of how such an agreement should benefit all parties. Anyone here to speak in favor of this agreement? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Kathy Brandt. I live at 934 Rough Creek Road, about 3 minutes from the shelter. I became very active as a shelter volunteer when LHS took over management of the shelter and it became no kill. I need my glasses. I initiated a monthly volunteer newsletter, organized shelter dog walks at the national park, cleaned kennels, did laundry, fostering, landscaping. I worked through 4 different managers, and after a major incident at the shelter where I suffered from PTSD and panic attacks, I considered quitting. When I attempted to volunteer again with the subsequent 2 managers, I found them to not be very volunteer-friendly, so I did not go back to the shelter. In my opinion, Appomattox should merge with LHS. The dog kennels at the shelter building in Appomattox are in dire need of renovation. Rusted outdoor runs, which I just looked at yesterday, broken grates over the open sewer system that runs through every kennel, zip-tied chain link on the gate to the back runs, all present safety issues for staff and housed animals alike. There are no dog washing facilities at the shelter, not enough kennel space. Dogs were kept in the bathroom, the laundry room, the isolation room, and the food prep, storage, and bowl cleaning area on a fairly regular basis. Because there is no leash law in Appomattox County, stray dogs are picked up regularly by animal control, and there's no room at the inn. There should be fencing from the building to the play yard, this is my opinion, to prevent escapes when taking excited, unruly dogs to the play area. LHS has the facility to properly care for these animals. They have the traffic to get these animals adopted out much sooner than Appomattox, where many of these animals spend months and months languishing in 2 small cat cages and 2 small and difficult to clean kennels. They have immediate vet care, where I have begged managers in Appomattox for days to get care for sick animals. For those saying that LHS is too far to go to pick up your animal that has been picked up by animal control, I have very little sympathy for folks that let their dogs run at large. Most pet owners would be very grateful that their animal was found and was safe. For those not wanting to go to LHS to adopt an animal, then adoption is not a very high priority. Please strongly consider the merging of the Appomattox shelter and LHS for the overall good of the animals. I do not want to see the return of a poorly managed high-kill shelter.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak in favor of? Anyone here to speak against? Yes, ma'am. Come on up, state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Haley Epperson. I live at 7042 Red House Road in Phoenix. I'm a Charlotte County employee. Charlotte County resident, but I have been an Appomattox employee for the past 4 years now. I currently dispatch for Appomattox, but I did manage the Appomattox Animal Shelter in 2018, as well as I was an animal control officer in 2019 with the director, now Kayla Marshall. I'd like to say how thankful the county has been for everything that Lynchburg Humane Society has done for the county. Being a no-kill facility and the amount of outreach that we have been able to obtain throughout the years of under contract with them. They are a tremendous asset when it comes to their on-site vet and medical facility, as well as their foster outreach, volunteer outreach, adoption outreach, as well as their donation base helping to further sustain care for the animals. That being said, I do believe it is time that the county takes a step back and withdraws their contract from the Lynchburg Humane Society. As most of us know, the Appomattox Animal Shelter is currently sitting abandoned and has been for roughly 8 months or so. This is not due to animals being adopted out from the county, but because it is simply not being utilized. Animals are being taken straight to Lynchburg Humane Society, which is against state vet laws, since their facility is outside of our jurisdiction. This is a fine, and while yes, it is not paid by the Lynchburg Humane Society, it does still sit under the county and does not look good for the county. There are many reasons that I can go against this. I could go on and on, but the short version is that I feel like the Lynchburg Humane Society has been short of willing to meet the needs of the county and their animals for quite some time. While difficult, I do think that with the amount of experience in the field in this room alone and the overwhelming support from the community, it would be absolutely possible to take back the animal shelter. There would, however, need to be some changes from its prior control before Lynchburg Humane Society, meaning better adoption hours for the community, better hours of operations in general, the availability of a medical facility being Corbin or Appomattox or even someone in Lynchburg contracting out with them. There would have to be some changes, but I do think that it is very possible for the county to be able to take back the shelter and it be a great asset for the community in general rather than taking them to Lynchburg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak against? You've already spoken.
Yes, I just,
A
if
different hearing.
you have any,
Oh, that's right, excuse me.
if you have any questions about the recent relationship with how we've been working with LHS, then I'm open to the questions.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for the lady? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I have a question for county attorney about what she said, something about being against the law to transport animals out of the county or something. I wasn't quite clear on that.
I can address
I
that.
can, you can speak to that. I can.
Under state law, animals do have to remain in the county that they are picked up in for their stray hold of 7 or 10 days. Since they're being taken to the Lynchburg Humane Society, which is outside of their jurisdiction, it is outside of the county, which can be a fine. So that's what I meant by it is technically against state vet laws, not technically state laws, but state vet laws.
May I respond to that?
No, we don't want to get into it.
Yeah. I'd like to add clarification to that, if you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I had a conversation with the state vet last week, the state inspector, and what we have to do, we have to close our shelter for it to be legal, and we have to proclaim the Lynchburg Humane Society location as our shelter of choice, sheltering of choice for the animals. So we cannot have 2 locations with a sign if it's not in operation. So that's what I believe she's speaking to, is we have to declare as a board, you have to declare as a board, which location, whether it be Appomattox or Lynchburg, you can have both locations, but at the same time, you would have to keep the animals here for that 10-day holding period if you delivered them to the Appomattox location. Is that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else speak against? I hereby close this public hearing. Now, after receiving comments, any discussion on whether to renew the lease proposal with the LHS effective October 20th, 2021?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hinks.
I don't see anywhere in this other than the letter that they want to abandon the or, requesting a new contract about, what it's going to cost us.
All right, Ms. Adams.
Yes, sir. This year, they've agreed to the contractual price of $87,000, which is the current LHS contractor.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hope.
so if I could ask Ms. Adams, is that a change? Because previously they were looking at like a $10,000 increase in what they were going to charge us. And the animals are going to have to go to Lynchburg. So now they're saying that they will do it for the same price
The same price for this year,
for this year.
although it did cost them
Well, this year's halfway over.
about $35,000 additional funding to operate what they thought would be the Appomattox expenses. They said they would enter this year's agreement with the $87,000.
And do we have any numbers on what it would cost us to run our own if we reverted back to our own shelter?
Today, well, we've been kind of troubleshooting this with the staffing of the shelter, medical care, the expenses that they have in their operational budget. It would cost at least $87,000.
Almost mute,
And, Mr. Chairman, if I may
huh?
add on to what Mr. Hogan requested, if it's in, need of repairs and upgrading, what are those remodeling or, upgrading costs going to be on top of the operational?
Very
We've
true.
not added that in, that's all.
And that wasn't added in. It's the board's pleasure. Whether renew the lease proposal from LHS effective October 20th, 21, or not. Motion been duly made, is that second? I'll second. I don't know how much it is. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I still, even if we pass a resolution to renew, I still would be curious as to what the total cost would be, or some kind of cost estimate to upgrade it to what it needs to be to meet standards, and also what the operational costs. And I know the young lady mentioned 2 vets in the area, but it's my understanding we've been unsuccessful in getting a veterinarian that wants to support us here in Appomattox. So that question would have to be answered also.
Good idea.
We've
Yeah.
got to do it by October 20th, so we've got another month.
I can address that question that you have in conversation with the state inspector. If we are not prescribing any drugs or administering any drugs, we do not have to be under the operation of a vet. We can go to any vet just like a resident would.
Okay. We still need the information to modernize, if you will, the shelter.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's also worth looking at those numbers of the animals that LHS provided, how many animals they took in last year. Over 20% of those animals didn't come from this county. So they had a lot, so 20% of their expenses ain't our dogs. And they're taking in dogs from Lynchburg, Farmville, Buckingham, Prince Edward County. So, the number of animals that we would take in, I would assume, would only be Appomattox County animals. So you would have some cost savings there. I also have a question. In the previous lease, were they not supposed to keep that building maintained? So they didn't do that?
Not according to the person that spoke.
No further question.
Okay, we need to table this in until next month. And Ms. Adams. I know the info. Next is committee appointments. Board of Zoning Appeals appointment at July 19th, 2021 meeting. The board tabled to the August meeting. The Board of Zoning Appeals appointment nomination for recommendation to the judge. This position will fill the unexpired term of James Cheatham ending June the 30th, 2022. Does anyone have a name? I can truthfully say that the person I talked to has declined. So I had beat the bushes, if you will. So we'll table this September meeting. And then we have to do something different. In accordance with the board to do this, everybody agree? Okay. Next, gentlemen, is the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes approval of all bills, minutes, supplemental appropriations, line item transfers, and fund transfers. Any item on the consent agenda shall be removed from consent agenda at the request of any board member prior to the vote on the consent agenda. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be considered by the board individually in the order in which they were removed from the consent agenda immediately following consideration of the consent agenda. So, gentlemen, had opportunity to review our consent agenda. Is there any questions, any concerns?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion duly made, is that second?
Second.
Discussion?
Can I make that
Yes, sir.
one correction? In the minutes from last month, talking about my comments about 460, strike the word business at the end of that section, because I was talking about 460, the highway.
Bypass.
So just strike that one word.
Okay. Was that second? Further discussion? All in favor, have a roll call vote. Mr. Hinkle? Mr. Hips? Mr. Abbott? Mr. Hogan? I also vote aye. Mr. Latch? Thank you, sir. Ms. Adams?
No report.
Thank you. Next, we have reports and informational items that you have before you. Anybody like to talk about any of those three? Okay, we'll go right into supervisor concerns. Mr. Hinkle?
No concerns.
Mr. Hips? Mr. Abbott? Mr. Hogan?
I'm not going to shake up things, not tonight, no, sir.
And I, on the other hand, will not shake up things either. Okay, we'll now engage in a closed session.
Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Appomattox County discussed in closed meeting the following matters. Consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the public body regarding specific legal matters concerning legal concerning certain court, registrar, and certain water agreements. And whereas pursuant to section 2.23711A8 of the Code of Virginia, such discussions may occur in closed meeting. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Appomattox County does hereby authorize discussion in the aforesaid matters in closed meeting. Need that as a motion?
So moved.
Is that second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay.